The conference chamber fell silent as the holographic projection filled the center of the room. 7 alien species sat in their designated positions around the circular table, their forms ranging from the insectoid Kree to the crystalline valor at the far end. Almost as an afterthought sat the human delegation. 3 humans in simple gray suits, hands folded on the polished surface before them. Commander Vectel of the Kree Empire rose to his full height, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture meant to convey authority. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber, lights reflecting the deep crimson of his species' war colors. The translator device at his throat hummed to life. The terms are simple. Humans, surrender 70% of your system resources. Accept protectorate status under the Kree Empire. Your military will be dissolved. Your ships will be decommissioned. You will serve the greater galactic community in the capacity we deem appropriate. The other species murmured their agreement. The velour chimed like crystal bells. The Marathi clicked their approval. This was standard procedure. When a lesser species grew too comfortable, too independent, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years, but they had never truly fit in. Too aggressive, too curious, too willing to ask uncomfortable questions. Ambassador Sarah Chen did not move. She was in her late 50s with gray streaking through her black hair and eyes that had seen too many negotiations end in disappointment. Next to her sat General Marcus Webb, his military dress uniform crisp despite the long hours of deliberation. On her other side, Dr. Kenji Yamamoto adjusted his glasses, his face carefully neutral. The silent stretched, versatile, chittered impatiently, his mandibles clicking together. Perhaps the humans did not understand. Perhaps their translation devices had failed. He repeated the ultimatum slower this time, as if speaking to children. You have 1 planetary rotation to respond, refuse, and the cremata will reduce your worlds to ash. 500 warships stand ready. Your resistance will be brief and pointless. Ambassador Chen raised 1 finger. The gesture was so small, so casual that several council members missed it entirely. She spoke, her voice carrying the slight accent of someone who had learned English as a second language. Perfectly calm. We will need 48 hours to prepare our response. Bechtel hesitated. This was not the reaction he expected. Where was the panic, the desperate pleading, the offers of compromise? He had delivered ultimatums to 17 species. Over his career, they all reacted the same way. Fear, desperation. Humanity showed neither. 48 hours, Chen repeated, her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Something else. Then we will give you our answer. The Valor representative leaned forward, light refracting through their crystalline body. This is generous. Commander Vectel, let them have their time to evacuate their young, to prepare their surrender. Very well. Vectel sat, his confidence returning. 48 of your hours, use them wisely. The human delegation stood. General Webb picked up his data pad with 1 hand, tucking it under his arm with military precision. Dr. Yamamoto gathered his notes into a neat stack. Ambassador Chen buttoned her jacket slowly, carefully, as if she had all the time in the universe. As they walked toward the exit, Chen paused. She looked back over her shoulder at the assembled council. That same not quite smile touched her features again. 48 Hours will be sufficient. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. Across human space, something stirred. On Luna, massive doors began to open in. The gray dust, doors that had been sealed for decades, ancient missile silos that official records claimed were decommissioned, started powering up there. Systems on Mars, construction equipment that had been building domed cities suddenly stopped and began assembling something else entirely. In the asteroid belt, mining ships changed their vectors, moving with purpose toward coordinates that did not appear on any public star chart. At Titan Station, Commander Rachel Torres received a Priority 1 message. She had been expecting it for 3 years. Authorization code was one she had memorized during her first week of command, one she had hoped never to use. Her fingers moved across her console. With practice deficiency, all personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Activate Protocol Sierra November. I repeat, activate Protocol Sierra November. Around the solar system, similar messages went out. Encrypted, untraceable, using communication channels the Galactic Council did not know existed. Thousands of men and women who had been living ordinary lives suddenly received calls. Veterans who had not worn uniforms in years found themselves pulling combat gear from hidden storage. Scientists working on theoretical projects received new priorities. Engineers began assembling devices from components that had been distributed across multiple facilities for exactly this purpose. The quiet wars humanity called them, conflicts fought in the shadows while the galaxy watched humanity play at being peaceful. Border skirmishes with pirates that were actually full-scale military exercises. Research projects that were actually weapons development. Mining operations that were actually military installations. For 50 years humanity had been preparing, not because they wanted war, because they understood something the Galactic Council did not. Peace is only possible when both sides believed war would be too costly. Ambassador Chen sat in her private quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel. The room was small, functional, with few personal items, a photograph of her family on Earth, a worn copy of Sun Tzu's Art of War, pages yellowed with age, medal she had never worn in public. General Webb entered without knocking. They had worked together long enough. That formality seemed pointless. He carried 2 glasses and a bottle of whiskey, real whiskey from Scotland, saved for special occasions. Think they noticed? He asked, pouring 2 fingers into each glass. Chen accepted the glass, swirling the amber liquid. Thoughtfully, the Kree are confident. The others are comfortable. They see us as children playing at civilization. Good. Webb sat down heavily. The reports are coming in. Fleet Command confirms full mobilization within 36 hours. Every asset is responding. Chen took a small sip. The whiskey burned pleasantly. And the Council believes we are scrambling to evacuate. Let them believe it. Webb pulled up a holographic display showing troop movements, ship positions, weapon systems coming online. We have been ready for this since first contact. Every diplomatic failure, every condescending remark, every time they treated us like primitives, we learned. We adapted, we prepared. Dr. Yamamoto joined them, his usual cheerful expression replaced with something harder. Intelligence confirms Kree fleet composition, 500 ships, just as Vectel said heavy cruisers, destroyers. Support vessels, standard battle. Formation, they expect overwhelming. Forced to break our will immediately. Have they studied human history at all? Webb asked, though he already knew the answer. They reviewed our cultural databases, art, literature, music. They dismissed our military history as primitive tribalism. Yamamoto pulled up a file. They have no concept of Stalingrad, of Thermopylae, of Uima. They do not understand that humanity has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other. We brought that expertise to the stars. Chen sat down. Her glass, the smile that had unsettled. The council returned. Then we have 48 hours to give them a history lesson they will never forget. Across human space, the countdown began. Weapon systems that should not exist powered up. Ships that were supposedly civilian transport shed their disguises. Soldiers who had been waiting their entire careers for this moment checked their equipment one final time. Humanity had spent 50 years being underestimated, dismissed, and patronized. The Kree Empire wanted war. They were about to learn why that was a mistake. Intelligence officer Thea of the Kree Third Fleet sat in her cramped workstation, mandibles clicking softly, as she reviewed the human military profile one final time. The data before her was conclusive, organized, and deeply reassuring. She had compiled this information herself over the past decade, cross-referencing thousands of sources. Human fleet strength 212 registered vessels, armament primarily kinetic weapons, chemical propulsion, outdated targeting systems, no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum entanglement, communication, their largest warship, the UNSS Enterprise, massed barely 300,000 tons. By CRT standards, it was a patrol boat. Estimated conquest time 6. Planetary rotations, acceptable. Casualties minimal. Probability of human victory 0.003%. The transmitted her final report to Commander Vectel with satisfaction. The humans were putting on a brave face, but mathematics did not lie. 500 Kree warships against 200 inferior human vessels. The outcome was not in question. What they did not know, what none of the Kree intelligence apparatus understood, was that every piece of data she possessed had been carefully curated by human intelligence over 50 years. The UNSS Enterprise did exist. It was registered, tracked, and occasionally visible on long-range sensors. What they records did not show was that Enterprise was a museum ship, a relic from humanity's first ventures into deep space, maintained for historical purposes. The real human fleet did not appear in any database the Kree could access. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility that official records listed as a water reclamation plant, Admiral James Atrix reviewed deployment orders. The room around him was vast, carved from living rock, filled with holographic displays showing ship positions across 3-star systems. 200 men and women worked at their stations, their movements efficient and practiced. Status report. He ordered. His second in command, Captain Elena Vasquez, pulled up the relevant data. Third Fleet is 40% deployed. 7th and 9th Fleets at full readiness. 14th Fleet reports minor delays with reactor startup on the Ragnarok, but they will be operational within 12 hours. And the Creatress asked, assembling at their staging point. Exactly as predicted. Vasquez allowed Herself a thin smile. They are bringing 500 ships standard formation. They expect we will meet them with our registered fleet. How many ships do we actually have? Asked the young Innan at a nearby console. He had transferred in just 3 months ago, cleared for this facility only after extensive background checks. The scope of the deception still amazed him. Hendricks turned to look at the ensign. The admiral was in his 60s, with gray hair and scars on his hands. From an accident in his youth, his eyes held the weight of decades of military service. We have 873 combat-ready vessels, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and support ships. We have 412 automated defense platforms scattered through the asteroid belt and Kuiper belt. We have 17 orbital weapon stations that the Galactic Council thinks are commercial satellites. The Innan's mouth opened slightly, but the registry says we only have 212 ships. The registry says what we wanted to say. Vasquez pulled up another display. Every ship we built in the past 50 years we built 2, 1 for show, registered and tracked, 1 for war, hidden and ready. Every diplomatic concession we made, we used to position assets near critical infrastructure. Every treaty we signed, we violated in ways they could not detect. Hendricks gestured at the holographic display. The CRT study history, Anson, but they studied the history of civilized species that followed rules, species that valued honor over victory. They never studied human history. If they had, they would have learned that humans do not fight fair. We fight to win. On Europa, beneath kilometers of ice, Project Thunderbolt reached final activation sequence. The facility had been built over 30 years, disguised as a research station studying the moon's subsurface ocean. In reality, it housed humanity's first rail gun capable of accelerating projectiles to 4% of light speed. Dr. Sarah Mitchell watched the power readings climb steadily. The rail gun stretched for 50 km through the ice, its magnetic accelerators drawing power from fusion reactors that Europa's supposed geothermal taps actually powered. When she fired this weapon, the projectile would hit its target with the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon. No radiation, no energy signature, just mass times velocity squared, the most fundamental equation in physics. Target acquisition locked. Her weapons officer reported. Cree staging area coordinates confirmed. Hold fire. Mitchell checked the countdown timer. We wait for the signal. Let them commit fully to their attack posture. In his private quarters aboard the battle cruiser Vengeance, Commander Vectel reviewed the deployment with satisfaction. His 500 ships represented the finest military force in the galaxy. Each vessel bristled with plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy shields that could deflect anything the humans might throw at them. He had fought 17 campaigns for the Kree Empire. He had broken siege lines, shattered planetary defenses, and brought proud species to their knees. The humans would be no different. 6 days and Earth would be a vassal state. 6 days and his name would be remembered alongside the greatest military commanders in Kree. His tactical officer entered the chamber, mandibles clicking with barely suppressed excitement. Commander, the humans have broadcast a message. General transmission, all frequencies there. Surrender. Vedal settled into his command throne. The officer hesitated. No, Commander, they have rejected the Ultimatum. For a moment Vectel felt nothing, then something that might have been amusement rippled through his thorax. They believe they can fight. How delightful. Show me this message. The holographic display activated. Ambassador Chen appeared, standing in what looked like the human diplomatic vessel. Behind her, General Webb and Dr. Yamamoto stood at attention. Chen's expression was calm, professional, and utterly composed. To the Kree Empire and the Galactic Council, her recorded voice began. We have reviewed your ultimatum. After careful consideration, humanity rejects your terms. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not dismantle our defenses. We will not become vassals to any empire. She paused, and that same unsettling smile touched her features. You wanted war. We have been ready since before you knew our name. We welcome your fleet. Come to Sol system. Come to Earth. We will be waiting. The message ended. Vito stared at the empty hologram for a long moment, then released a chittering laugh. Such bravado, such pointless pride. Very well, humans, if you will not kneel willingly, we will break you. He turned to his tactical officer. How long until we reach Earth's outer defenses? 18 hours at maximum speed. Commander, proceed and ready all weapons. The humans want to fight. Let us show them what real warfare looks like. Across the Galactic Council networks, news of humanity's rejection spread. The Valor expressed sadness at humanity's inevitable destruction. The Marathi began planning which human territories they would claim after the Krekwest. The other species watched with detached interest. It was always sad when a young species chose pride over survival, but such was the way of the galaxy. None of them noticed the subtle shifts in human shipping patterns over the past decade. None of them had questioned why human diplomatic missions always seemed to include unusually large security details. None of them had thought to ask why humanity maintained research stations in every major asteroid cluster when mining would have been more profitable. The Galactic Council had made assumptions based on the information available to them. They had not considered that humans might understand game theory, might comprehend the value of asymmetric information, might have studied every intelligence gathering technique the Council used, and built their deception accordingly. Ambassador Chen stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel, now accelerating hard back toward Earth. Through the viewport, stars streaked past in distorted patterns as they traveled. Faster than light, General Webb joined her, his hands clasped behind his back. In parade rest. They are coming, Chen said quietly. Yes. Webb's expression was grim. 500 ships. Every military analyst in the galaxy expects them to win easily. Good. Chen turned from the viewport. If they expected a real fight, they might have been more careful. They might have scouted more thoroughly. They might have questioned their assumptions. Overconfidence is a tactical advantage. For us, you sound almost pleased, Webb observed. I am not pleased, General. I am terrified. Chen's composure slipped. For just a moment, we are about to fight the most powerful military force in the galaxy. People will die. Our children will lose parents. Our parents will lose children, but we are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting for the right to exist on our own terms. She straightened her shoulders, and the mask of diplomatic calm returned. And we will win because we must, because humans understand something. The Kreth war is Not about honor or glory, war is about making the other side regret starting it so badly that they never want to fight. Again, the countdown continued across human space. Final preparations reached completion. Families said goodbye to soldiers. The Krath Armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sol system. Their ships arrayed in perfect formation. Commander Vectel stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominion, forearms spread wide as he surveyed the tactical display. 500 ships, the pride of the Kree Empire, ready to deliver swift and overwhelming victory. Sensors report, he ordered. Scanning now, Commander. The sensor operator's mandibles clicked rapidly as data poured across his station, detecting multiple contacts. Analyzing. Beale expected panic. Broadcasts from Earth, desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, his communications officer received something different. Commander, we are receiving a narrow beam transmission from Luna, the human moon. Vectel had reviewed the intelligence reports. A research colony, some manufacturing facilities, nothing of military significance. Show me. Holographic display activated. A human appeared wearing a military uniform Vectel did not recognize, gray and black, with insignia that suggested high rank. The human's face was weathered, scarred, and completely calm. Commander Vectel of the Kree Empire. I am Admiral Atrix, commanding United Nations Defense Forces Sol Sector. You have entered our space with hostile intent. This is your only warning. Turn back now or face the consequences. Vectel chittered with amusement. A warning from a species with inferior technology and fewer ships. Arrogance was almost admirable. He opened a return channel. Admiral Atrix, I appreciate your bravery, but you are outmatched. Surrender now and we will show mercy to your civilian population. The human's expression did not change. Very well, you were warned. The transmission ended. Veal turned to his tactical officer. Begin the advance. Maintain formation. Weapons ready, but hold fire until we are in optimal range. I want this to be quick and decisive. The Kree Armada began moving deeper into Sol system. Their energy shields hummed at full power, their plasma cannons charged, their missile tubes loaded. This would be over in hours. Then Luna opened fire. The gray surface of the moon erupted with weapon launches, not missiles, not energy beams, solid projectiles accelerated by electromagnetic forces to velocities the CFT had never encountered in combat. Railgun fire moving at significant fractions of light speed, traveling too fast for conventional shields to deflect. The first projectile hit the CRT destroyer relentless amidships. Kinetic energy transfer was catastrophic. The ship's energy shield, designed to deflect plasma and redirect energy weapons, did nothing against simple mass times velocity. The destroyer broke in half. Atmosphere venting in frozen clouds, its reactor going critical in a flash of light. 6 more projectiles followed in the next 10 seconds. 6 more CRT ships died before they could react. Evasive maneuvers. Vedal roared, return fire. The Kree fleet scattered, abandoning their perfect formation. Plasma cannons opened fire on Luna's surface, scorching the gray dust, melting rock into glass. But the human weapons installations were buried deep, shielded by kilum of solid stone. Plasma dissipated uselessly. Commander, more contacts. the sensor operators. Voice rose in pitch, detecting launches. From Mars orbit, no wait they were. Already there, stealth missiles. Hundreds of them. What Vectel did not know was that humanity had spent 30 years perfecting stealth technology, not energy dampening or cloaking fields. Something simpler, missiles painted matte black, running cold, drifting predetermined orbits like debris until they activated 200 stealth missiles. Their drives simultaneously, they were nuclear, using controlled fusion detonations to power laser arrays. Each missile carried enough energy to cut through a CRT cruiser's armor like a torch through plastic. The key point. Defense systems engaged, shooting down missiles by the dozen, but there were too many approaching from too many vectors. 30 missiles broke through the defensive screen. 30 nuclear lasers fired. 30 CH ships died in brilliant flashes of light. Casualties Ficto demanded. 37 ships destroyed, Commander. 52 more with significant damage. We have not even reached Earth's orbital defenses. Impossible. Vectel's mandibles trembled. Intelligence said the humans had primitive weapons, chemical rockets, kinetic projectiles, nothing that could threaten a modern battle fleet. Intelligence was wrong, the tactical officer said quietly, or the humans lied very effectively for a very long time. Young pilot Vesra fought the controls of his fighter as debris from a destroyed cruiser tumbled past. He was 23 cycles old, a promising pilot with 12 successful training missions. This was his first real combat. Nothing in his training had prepared him for this. Chaos. All fighters form up on my position, his wing commander ordered. We are breaking through to Earth. We will eliminate their orbital installations. Vescra adjusted his vector, following his commander deeper into Sol system. Ahead, Earth hung in the darkness, blue and white and beautiful, and surrounding Earth like a crown of thorns were they orbital defense platforms. The platforms looked ordinary, simple satellites, commercial in design. Vescra had seen the intelligence reports. They were communication relays, weather monitoring stations, navigation beacons, harmless. Then they opened fire. Each platform carried swarm drones, thousands of them, each the size of a human fist, each equipped with a small explosive char. An adaptive targeting AI. The drones launched in clouds, moving with insect-like coordination, tracking heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions. Vescra watched in horror as his wing commander's fighter disappeared under a swarm of the small machines. They attached themselves to the hull, found weak points, detonated. The fighter came apart like a toy in a child's angry hands. Break, break, someone screamed over the communication channel. They are everywhere. Vescra threw his fighter into a desperate spin, trying to shake the drones pursuing him. His shield did nothing. They were too small, too fast, too numerous. One attached to his left wing. He felt the impact through his control stick. Two more hit his engine housing. The controls went dead. Eject. Eject now. He punched the emergency release. The cockpit canopy blew away. The ejection system fired, hurling him clear of his dying fighter. Behind him, the small craft exploded as the drones found the fuel tanks. Vescra tumbled through space, his emergency beacon transmitting, his suit keeping him alive. Around him the battle raged. Kreth ships fired desperately at targets they could barely track. Human weapons Struck from unexpected angles, the perfect military formation had collapsed into chaos, and then the human fleet arrived. They came from the asteroid belt, from hiding places in the Kuiper belt, from orbital positions the Kree had never detected. Not 200 ships, 800 modern warships with adaptive armor, targeting systems, and weapons designed specifically to defeat Kree technology. Admiral Atrix stood on the bridge of his flagship Indomitable, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Kree had done exactly what human war game simulations predicted. They had assumed technological superiority. They had attacked in conventional formation. They had underestimated human creativity. All ships weapons free. Execute pattern Alpha 7, the human fleet spread out not into rigid formations, but into flexible hunter-killer groups. Each group had practiced this maneuver 10,000 times in simulation. They knew their targets, they knew their approach vectors, they knew how to exploit every weakness in Kree military doctrine that 50 years of careful study had revealed. The Kree shields could not stop kinetic weapons. The humans used rail guns and missile swarms. The Kree relied on energy weapons with predictable firing patterns. The humans used adaptive armor that redistributed heat and electromagnetic countermeasures. The CRT communicated on standard military frequencies. The humans jammed those frequencies and broadcast false orders that mimicked Kree command protocols. This was not a battle, this was a demonstration, humanity showing the galaxy exactly what happened when you gave them 50 years to prepare. Commander Vector watched his fleet die around him, ships exploding, communications breaking down, formation cohesion collapsing. In 30 years of military service, he had never experienced defeat. The concept had seemed impossible. Commander, we must withdraw. His tactical officer urged. We have lost 40% of our fleet. If we stay, we lose everything. Vector wanted to refuse. His pride demanded he fight to the end, but he was also a realist. The battle was lost. The war, however, might still be won if he could preserve his remaining forces. All ships withdraw. Full retreat. We regroup at the rally point. The surviving Kree ships broke contact. They're faster than light. Drives charging. The humans let them go. Admiral Atrix watched the enemy fleet limp away and allowed himself a moment of relief. Status report. Enemy casualties 214 ships destroyed, another 73 heavily damaged. Our casualties 18 ships lost, 42 damaged. Captain Vasquez read the numbers with quiet satisfaction. They came expecting easy victory. We taught them otherwise. Atrix nodded slowly. Begin recovery operations. Search for survivors. Ours and theirs, and send a message to Ambassador Chen. Tell her Phase 1 is complete. The Kree know now that we can fight. Phase 2 begins when they try again. The Kree High Command convened an emergency session aboard their primary battle station deep in their home territory. Commander Vector stood before the assembled leadership, his forearms hanging in a posture of shame. 300 ships lost, the largest military defeat Kree and the humans had barely scratched their defensive capabilities. Supreme Commander Thakra, eldest and most decorated military leader in the Empire, studied the battle reports with growing disbelief. You say they had 800 ships, not 200. Confirmed, Supreme Commander. VC tiles. Mandibles clicked nervously. Every intelligence assessment was wrong. Their weapons are more advanced than we believed. Their tactics are unconventional. They do not fight with honor, they fight to destroy. That return turned to the intelligence coordinator. How did we miss this? The coordinator's body language showed distress. The humans provided false data. For decades, every diplomatic concession positioned their assets strategically. They studied our methods while we dismissed them as primitives. It was a comprehensive deception. Earth did not wait for the Kree to recover. Admiral Hendrus activated Protocol Iajima, named after a human battle from centuries past. The principle was simple and brutal. Do not just defeat the enemy. Make them regret ever starting the fight. Human fleets emerged from Sol system following the retreating Kree forces, but they did not pursue conventional formations. Instead, they deployed strategies the Galactic Council had never seen before, strategies humanity had perfected over 10,000 years of warfare against itself. The first Kree colony world to fall was KTH Prime. The humans did not bombard from orbit. They did not invade with ground forces. Instead, they deployed cyber warfare packages that infiltrated every computer system on the planet. Manufacturing centers stopped working. Power grids failed. Communication networks broadcast confusing orders. The colony descended into chaos without a single shot fired. When the Kree military arrived to restore order, they found their own automated defense systems turned against them. Turrets that should have protected the colony fired on Kree ships. Shields that should have activated failed. And through it all, human broadcast played on every screen. Every speaker, surrender now. This colony is under human control. Resistance will result in more suffering for your civilians. The second colony fell to Von and mining drones. Humanity dropped thousands of self-replicating machines onto asteroid mining facilities. The drones consumed everything they touched, breaking down matter into raw materials, building more drones, spreading like a mechanical plague. Within 3 days, 5 Kree mining stations simply ceased to exist, converted into clouds of autonomous machines that humans remotely deactivated only after the Kree abandoned the sector. The third colony experienced something worse. Humanity deployed biological warfare, but not in the way the Galactic Council feared. The weapons targeted Kree genetics specifically, causing temporary paralysis in adult Kree while leaving other species and Kree young completely unharmed. The colony could not fight, could not work, could not resist, and human medical teams arrived with the antidote, distributing it freely to any Kree who agreed to cease hostilities. Ambassador Chen stood before the Galactic Council, her image transmitted across hundreds of star systems. Behind her, footage played showing the fallen Kree colonies not destroyed, occupied, pacified. The message was clear: we did not start this war. Humanity seeks peace, but if you force us to fight, we will fight with every tool at our disposal. We will use cyber warfare. We will use autonomous weapons. We will use biological agents. We will use whatever works to end the conflict as quickly as possible. She paused, letting her words sink in. The CFT demanded our surrender. We have counter-offered. They will withdraw from all human territories. They will pay reparations for damages. They will acknowledge human sovereignty. or we will continue this demonstration. The Valor representative there. Crystalline body reflecting the chamber. Light spoke up, this is barbaric, you violate every convention of civilized warfare. Chen turned to face them. Directly civilized warfare, an interesting concept. Tell me what is civilized about demanding another species surrender or face annihilation? What is civilized about attacking without provocation? The CH wanted war. We are giving them war, just not the kind they expected. Young Veskra sat in the human detention facility, a converted cargo ship that orbited Earth's moon. The conditions were not what he expected. Clean quarters, adequate food, medical care for his injuries, guards who were professional but not cruel, and most disturbing of all classes, the humans were teaching their prisoners history, military strategy, philosophy. Veskra attended because there was nothing else to do, but slowly, reluctantly, he began to understand. A human instructor, a gay-haired woman named Dr. Foster, stood before the assembled Kree prisoners. Today we discuss the concept of total war. Throughout human history, most conflicts followed rules. Warriors fought warriors, civilians were protected. Territory changed hands, but life continued. She pulled up images of ancient human conflicts, but sometimes a war becomes so important that survival itself is at stake. When that happens, humans abandon the rules. We use every advantage, we exploit every weakness, we do whatever works. Veskra raised one of his arms, asking for permission to speak, but this is dishonorable. Warriors should fight with courage, not tricks. Dr. Foster nodded. I understand that perspective, but consider this. Your empire threatened to kill billions of humans, men, women, children, not because we attacked you, because we refused to become your slaves. Did honor protect us? Did courage make your weapons less deadly? She walked closer to Veskra. When someone threatens your family, you do not fight fair, you fight to win, you fight to survive. That is not dishonorable, that is practical. Back on the Kree battle station, Supreme Commander Thakra received the latest casualty reports. 4 colony worlds occupied, mining operations destroyed, trade routes disrupted, economic damage mounting into the trillions, and still the humans pushed forward, their forces seeming to multiply with each engagement. The strategic coordinator displayed a simulation. If the war continues at this rate, we will lose 20% of our military capacity within 1 solar cycle, 30% within 2 cycles. The economic strain will our empire. Dakra's mandibles clicked slowly, and if we deploy our full military might, every ship, every weapon, everything we have. The coordinator hesitated. The humans demonstrated capabilities we did not know existed. They hacked our systems. They used autonomous weapons. They deployed biological agents. If we escalate, they will escalate, and they seem to have been preparing for this possibility much longer than we have. Admiral Hendricks stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, reviewing the strategic situation. The Kree were bleeding resources, losing territory, and facing mounting pressure from other council species who suddenly realized the implications. If humans could defeat the Kree, the entire balance of galactic power was changing. Captain Vasquez approached with a message. The Kree have transmitted a request for ceasefire negotiations. Atrix nodded slowly. Acknowledge the message. Tell them we will cease offensive operations for 72 hours, but make it clear this is not surrender. This is an opportunity for them to end this war before we have to end it for them. Ambassador Chen received the ceasefire notification in her quarters. She had not slept properly in weeks. The weight of decisions, the knowledge of casualties on both sides pressed down on her. General Webb joined her, bringing 2 glasses and another bottle of whiskey. They are ready to talk, Webb said quietly. Chen took the offered glass. I never wanted this. I spent my career trying to build bridges between species. Now I have helped burn them down. You gave them every chance to choose peace. Webb sat down across from her. They chose war. We chose survival. History will judge which choice was right. Chen stared at the amber liquid in her glass. What if we went too far? The biological weapons, the cyber attacks, the autonomous drones we used. Things that terrify people, things that could be used against us someday. That is a risk. Webb's expression was grave. But we also demonstrated something important. We showed the galaxy that humans will do whatever it takes to defend ourselves, not because we are cruel, because we value survival over pride. Across crept space, the military command structure debated furiously. Some commanders wanted to fight on to restore their honor. Others recognized the reality. The humans were not bluffing. They had more weapons, more strategies, more willingness to break conventions, and the longer the war continued, the worse it would get. Supreme Commander Thakra made the final decision. Send our delegation to the neutral station. We will negotiate, not because we are weak, but because continuing this war would make us weaker. Still, the humans have shown us that victory is not always about superior numbers or technology. Sometimes it is about superior preparation and willingness to adapt. In the detention facility, Veskra watched broadcasts of the ceasefire announcement. Around him, other prisoners chittered with relief. The war was ending. They would go home eventually, but Vesser felt no joy, only understanding. The humans had taught him a lesson his military academy never covered. The neutral station floated in the space between territories, a massive structure built by the Galactic Council for exactly these moments when wars needed to end. Delegates came here far from their home worlds, far from the pressures of public opinion. Ambassador Chen walked through the corridors with General Webb and Dr. Yamamoto, their footsteps echoing in the quiet halls. The Kree delegation waited in the main conference chamber. Supreme Commander Thakra sat at the head of their side of the table, flanked by military advisors and political representatives. His posture was stiff, mandibles tight. Pride and practicality weighed in his expression. The human delegation took their seats across the table. Chen opened her data pad, pulling up the preliminary terms. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of life support systems. Supreme Commander Chen began, her voice calm and professional. We are here to end this war, not to humiliate you, not to destroy your empire, simply to ensure that humanity can exist freely in this galaxy. Thatra's translator device hummed. You have demonstrated your capabilities. We acknowledge that we underestimated humanity. The question now is, what price you demand for peace? Chen slid her data pad across the table. Our terms are as follows: full withdrawal of all CFT military forces from human territories, recognition of human sovereignty by the Galactic Council, Reparations for damages caused by the initial attack, payable over 10 standard cycles, and 1 additional term. She paused, making sure she had everyone's attention. We propose a new doctrine for the Galactic Council. Any species that declares war must be prepared to face their enemy without restrictions, without rules, without mercy. War becomes total. Both sides use everything at their disposal until one side surrenders completely. This makes war unthinkable. This makes peace valuable. The CRT advisors chittered among themselves. One of them, a political officer, leaned forward. You ask us to legitimize the very tactics we found barbaric, the cyber warfare, the biological weapons, the autonomous systems. General Webb spoke up, his voice measured. We ask you to recognize reality. Those weapons exist. That technology exists. Pretending otherwise does not make anyone safer. But if every species knows that war means facing every possible weapon, every possible strategy, then maybe they will think twice before starting one. That studied the terms for a long moment. His mandibles clicked slowly. You propose peace through fear, through the threat of total destruction. No. Chen shook her head. We propose peace through understanding, through the knowledge that war is too costly for anyone to win. Your empire started this conflict believing it would be easy, brief, decisive. Instead, you lost hundreds of ships and multiple colonies. Not because we wanted to destroy you, because you gave us no choice. She leaned forward. Imagine if every potential aggressor had to consider that cost before declaring war. How many conflicts would end before they began? How many species would choose negotiation over confrontation? The negotiations continued for 6 days. Details were hammered out, boundaries were defined, reparation schedules were calculated. The Galactic Council representatives observed, adding their perspectives, adjusting terms to ensure galactic stability. And slowly, grudgingly, an agreement took shape. The Treaty of Soul, as it came to be called, was signed on the 7th day. Humanity gained recognition as a sovereign power. The Kree acknowledged their miscalculation and agreed to reparations, and the human doctrine became official council policy. Any declaration of war would trigger total conflict protocols. No rules, no restriction, just survival. 5 years later, Earth had changed. The defense installations remained active, but at lower alert levels. The hidden fleets returned to their disguised positions, ready but not deployed. Trade with other species increased. Cultural exchanges resumed, slowly, carefully. Humanity rejoined the galactic community, but everyone remembered what had happened. Everyone understood the new reality. Veskra, the young Kree pilot, who had survived the first battle, now walked through the halls of the human military academy on Mars. After his release from detention, he had made an unusual choice. Instead of returning to CF space, he applied for admission to human military studies. His application had been accepted, and now he studied alongside human cadets, learning the strategies and philosophies that had defeated his empire. His instructor, retired General Webb, stood at the front of the classroom. Today we discuss the paradox of military power. The strongest militaries are often those that never have to fight because their enemies understand the cost of confrontation. A human cadet raised her hand. But, General, does that not encourage an arms Race, everyone building more weapons to deter everyone else. Webb nodded. That is the danger, but consider the alternative. Before the war, the Galactic Council maintained peace through assumed superiority. The strong species believed they could dominate the weak. That assumption led to conflict. He pulled up a historical display showing the 50 years before the war. Now the Council maintains peace through mutual deterrence. Every species knows that war means total war. So, instead of fighting, they negotiate. They compromise. They find solutions that do not require bloodshed. Vesser spoke up, his translator device humming. But is this truly peace, General, or simply delayed conflict? Webb smiled slightly. That is the question, Cadet. Veskra, humanity spent 10,000 years asking that same question. We never found a perfect answer, but we learned that deterrence works better than appeasement. That preparation prevents conflict better than wishful thinking. In the Galactic Council chambers, a new species had just made first contact. The Zephyrians, insectoid beings from a distant spiral arm, were being introduced to the galactic community. Their representative, a diplomat named Crix, looked around at the assembled species with curiosity. We have studied your cultures, your histories, your achievements. We hope to join your community and contribute to galactic civilization. The Valerian representative chimed welcomingly. We look forward to learning from your species. Perhaps you have questions about council procedures. Crix hesitated, then asked the question that had puzzled their analysts. We noticed that one species, humanity, seems to hold unusual influence despite being relatively new to the council. Can you explain this? The chamber fell silent. Finally, a former Kree military commander, now serving as a diplomatic liaison, spoke. His translator device conveyed his words carefully. The humans are the reason we talk now instead of fight. They taught us that war is not a tool of policy. It is a catastrophe tool. Be avoided at all costs. He paused, mandibles clicking softly, and pray to whatever powers you believe in that you never give them a reason to stop. Smiling, Crix looked confused. Stop. Smiling, I do not understand. Ambassador Chen, still serving as humanities representative, stood from her seat. When humans smile, it means we are at peace. When we stop smiling, it means we are at war. And when we are at war, we do not stop until the other side surrenders completely. That is not a threat, Ambassador Crix. That is simply how we are built. She gestured around the chamber. Every species here has the capacity for violence. Every species has weapons. What makes humans different is that we spent our entire history practicing. We fought each other for 10,000 years. We perfected every aspect of warfare, and when we came to the stars, we brought that knowledge with us. Chen's expression softened. But we also learned something else. War is terrible. War is destructive. War should always be the last option. So we smile, we negotiate, we compromise. Because peace is better than the alternative. Crix processed this information. Their antenna twitching thoughtfully. You are saying that humans are simultaneously the most dangerous and most peaceful species. The Valor representative chimed in agreement. That is exactly what we are saying, and it has made the galaxy safer for everyone. Back on Earth, in her office overlooking the restored gardens of Geneva, Chen reviewed the latest diplomatic reports, trade agreements, Cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, the galaxy was thriving in ways it had not in centuries, because every species now understood that war was not an acceptable option. General Webb, now fully retired, visited her office with 2 glasses and a familiar bottle of whiskey. They sat together, looking out at the sunset, painting Earth sky in orange and purple. Do you think we did the right thing? Webb asked quietly, showing them our full capabilities using those weapons. Chen sipped her whiskey slowly. I think we did what we had to do. The Kree gave us no choice, and in doing what we had to do, we changed the galaxy. Now species think twice before starting wars. Now they negotiate instead of fight. She set down her glass. But I also think about the cost, the soldiers who died, the CRT civilians who suffered, the weapons we deployed that we can never undeploy. Those choices will haunt me forever. Webb nodded slowly. That is the burden of leadership, making impossible choices and living with the consequences. But look around, the galaxy is at peace. Real peace, not because everyone is weak, because everyone is strong enough. That war makes no sense. In orbit around Earth, the defense grid hummed quietly. Weapon systems in standby mode, fleets docked at their stations, soldiers on routine duty. Everything appeared calm, peaceful, ordinary, but everyone who knew the truth understood. Those systems could activate in 90 seconds.